The cloud. All right, cool. Thank you.
Good morning, Wendy. Your mute's on.
Sorry, people usually prefer that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Excited about the topic.
Yes, just a little relevant for what we're all going through right now, right? So I'll be got a good group to talk to. So excited for this.
Well, and Wendy, seeing you jump on made me go, there's a perspective. So that'll be interesting to hear from you as well.
All right, everyone. I got 8:30 here. I'm gonna get going, and as people join us, we'll kind of let them in if we need to, or just kind of have them join the conversation. I want to first say thank you to everyone for taking the time out of your day to discuss this important topic in our series. So this topic this month is future focused on culture. And kind of where this came out of is originally, we wanted as a Medco team wanted to put together a series of topics of opportunities of personal professional development. And this kind of came out of conversations we were having with our business leaders, with our community leaders, and honestly, just conversations from ourselves. And so kind of just to kind of lead into it, this is the third installment. We did back in February a future focus on mental health. Then last month in March, we did a future focus on physical health, which I think were a great jump start into taking better care of ourselves and our employees and after the strange year of 2020. And now looking forward even more into 2021, we're looking at this topic of future focused on culture. Kind of the description we had out there, which I'm sure you've all seen, is changes in the office landscape and remote working have impacted team cultures in ways we have never navigated before. So we're bringing area leaders here today to listen and learn as they offer insight and reflection on the lasting impact in the workplace. And I know just kind of a little chatter before with Paul and Kyle. I mean, let's be honest. You turn on the news, you go to your LinkedIn, other social media. This topic of working from home or WFH, right, and hybrid options. I mean, we're hearing all these different things of what this means for the workplace, and then honestly, what this means for our people and the culture that we're providing them every day. So I want to first, before we get too far, introduce our panel here, and again, thank them for their time and honestly, just insight today as we continue to navigate these challenges together. First, just kind of going in order here, I have Paul Phelan, from the CEO and president at Phelan Interiors.
Good morning.
Go ahead and say hi, Paul. Sorry.
Sorry. Good morning, everyone.
All right. Next, we have Nicole Kavanaugh, who's the Director of Global Supplier Development at Collins Aerospace. Thanks for joining us, Nicole.
Good morning.
Next up, we have Alicia Murphy. She is the Chief Organizational Effectiveness Officer at Van Meter.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Alicia. Appreciate it. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Kyle Martin, the President at Martin Gardner Architecture. Thanks for joining us, Kyle. We got you on mute, but we'll get you. There we go. So we'll get you unmuted and get you talking.
My allergies started raging out of control yesterday, so I'll if I shut my camera off I'm just blowing my nose, and if I mute my microphone, I'm just coughing or sneezing. So.
Hey, it's that time of year with a couple of my family members here with that same fun problem, right? So another checkbox to the resiliency for you, Kyle. We appreciate you. Just to honestly jump right into it here. I mean, we all want to talk about remote working, virtual communication, all that, but I think the first topic of conversation is kind of, this future of office space. Obviously, there's been physical changes, whether it be related to PPE and not PPE, or PPE, right? The protection equipment and kind of the masking and whether that be different shields and whatnot, and kind of how we have been able to navigate that, and then the culture impact of more separation in the workplace. But then also looking at, how are we outfitting our employees at home to make them feel comfortable? I mean, I'll be honest, I was, before I joined here, was on a card table in a card chair for 4 or 5 months. So understanding the impact of that. So maybe Paul, we'll kind of just throw it to you, and then Kyle, kind of see what you have, just kind of what you guys are seeing as far as what you've been able to do to help outfit, whether it be your smaller clients, bigger clients, whatever that is, related to the changes in the physical space.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Brady. So for Phelan's Interiors, I mean, we have a 12,000 square foot showroom space, so it's very easy for us to separate ourselves from others. And the cleaning, the one thing that's come of this is I think that's going to stick. So we're cleaner than we've ever been. I don't see that going away because it's more of a habit. But for the personal showroom, that's not been an issue. We've had several clients who we've been working with and actually in the process of setting up workstations. And it's no surprise to anybody, the panels that can be added to a workstation are plentiful, and you can stack them to the ceiling. So a lot of the things that I think we're seeing is that feeling of safe. And that helps when people can't see you, you're not there. And so that barrier seems to be important for a lot of the clients. And the other thing is like air purification. That's something we've been working with both personally in the store and with clients, because that's one way of at least displaying to your clients, we're doing absolutely everything we can to make sure that you have a safe environment to shop in or a safe environment to come in to the doctor's office. And I think general public just wants to see and feel safe that you're doing absolutely everything you can to provide a safe shopping experience.
Yeah, Paul, no, that's interesting, right? It's all about safety still, and kind of just making sure people are comfortable. Kyle, kind of what have you seen? I mean, more on maybe, I know we don't want anyone to knee-jerk react to things, but I don't know if there's been, in your world, I know when we talked, you talked about just a group that you're kind of part of and kind of forward looking as far as this aspect goes.
Yeah. I mean, from the architectural perspective, we've been doing some thinking about it, and it affects us directly to some degree because we'd like to believe that we're a collaborative kind of industry where we're in the same room or around the same table. But what we've also learned is that remote work is totally possible, and with the tools that we have at our disposal, whether it's Zoom or Teams or whatever, that you can do a lot of things, in some ways even more effectively than what we used to around a table. Certain types of presentations, certain types of communication. But going to Paul's point with air handling and even lighting to some degree, and cleaning and spacing out and putting up certain barriers, whether they're transparent or not, and how effective some of those treatments actually are versus just the feeling of safety. There's going to be some research probably coming out over the next several months, next couple of years, that how effective is that plastic sneeze guard versus just a little bit more distance, or an air curtain or something like that. So all kinds of different ways of thinking about those applications in new ways. And for schools in particular, the CARES Act there's all kinds of new funding out there, and we're working with a school district where they discovered $3 million worth of projects that they can do basically right now, and it's heavily funded. So there's a lot of changes that are going to come to our buildings that are aging in particular. My wife's a high school math teacher at Washington High School in Cedar Rapids, and all the different things with schools and teaching, and just the styles of that have had to change in the way they operate. So us being knowledge workers, like I said, it's not too bad, but it's actually more effective in some ways, being more separated and being kind of giving ourselves a little bit more space.
Yeah, and I think the most space we've been giving our employees or and whatnot is the actual physical space of them working from home. And kind of jumping to Nicole and Alicia, and I know maybe you guys can talk about plans going forward with your employees, but I know currently right now we do still have a lot of people working from home. Like how have you guys been able to help bridge the gap between the physical workspace and working from home when it relates to culture, but also just outfitting your employees, whether it be, helping them, access things from the workspace to take home, or maybe some other creative things done. And maybe Nicole, I'll call you out first, and then Alicia will have you add on it if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, to kind of expand on what Kyle said, with all of us, or so many of us working from home or with the Zoom, it's really kind of leveled that office environment or conference room. So we're actually finding it easier to have, across the country, across the globe meetings, and you reach out and network with folks that perhaps before you had just thought about your physical site. Well, now we don't have a physical site necessarily with that boundary. So really taking advantage of that opening up. And then as far as enabling our staff members, right, encouraging the use of their cameras, either on their computers or providing those. We did encourage folks to take home the additional monitors, as well as the very desks, so that they can sit down or stand up. I think all of those things have really helped with their efficiency, instead of just trying to work off of one small screen. They're used to having multiple screens, and that's made a big difference. And we've allowed that to occur.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think those stand-up desks are coming very common, and I that's awesome that you guys allowed people to take those home, because that just changing sitting down to standing up is huge for people. Alicia, what do you have for us? Let's give you some time here.
Specific to working from home, or just how we're keeping people connected to our culture as they do work from home?
All the above. Let's hear it all, Alicia. All the good stuff, right?
Oh gosh. Well, we've early on, as most companies did, sent everybody home that could work from home for the safety of our employee owners. And then it just sort of organically started to happen where we're finding that hybrid model is really going to be where we're going to land, probably long term, right? We've proven now that we can work from home. We've heard a lot of feedback from our employee owners that they enjoy it for a lot of reasons. But we're not quite ready to pull the trigger yet and say everybody 100% be at home, because we still are very committed to that sense of community within our culture, and want to balance having people in the office as well as being at home. What that can then look like can be individual for each employee owner, what works well within their team to serve their company. So we're going to adopt the hybrid model, and with the expectation that you work with your leader to understand how can you best, what's the best mix, and how can you make sure that you're continuing to stay connected to your team, stay connected to our company and to our culture. And then we outlined, I don't want to say expectations, but just sort of rules of thumb for our employee owners. For example, when we have our monthly celebration meetings as a company, you need to be in the office those days. You need to come in for team meetings. So just giving a toolkit to our leaders and our employee owners around what can they expect? What's sort of our new rules of engagement as we go forward? But we're in that place where the hybrid model is probably where we're going to sit for a while, so that we can ensure people do stay connected to each other.
Yeah, and I know Paul and I have chatted about this a little bit beforehand too, is seeing, this hybrid model, I think is definitely not going away, just based on all the feedback you see, whether it be on LinkedIn or whatever survey you're seeing. And then I know I saw a LinkedIn article yesterday that had a survey that there was 50% of the respondents said that if their current employer does not allow them to work of some type of hybrid model or at home in some form or fashion, that they're going to be looking for another opportunity. So kind of jumping into that word opportunity, and maybe we'll start with Paul as far as I'm kind of using this word opportunity to also look at it. How are we using this opportunity as employers to reinvent, whether it be this workspace and the physical space that we have in the office, but also at home, kind of like you talked about, Alicia and Nicole, knowing that they are working from home, able to take these things home. How are we going to continue to use that as an opportunity to show them that we care about them, that we're connected to them? And I know, Paul, the big thing that we talked about was, this is your chance to show your culture and who you are, right? What does that look like and the future of that? So maybe everyone think on that, just on this opportunity, as far as, we always look at, we're rising to this challenge to meet the employees' needs. Okay, well, how are you as an employer really taking this as an opportunity to take that next step to show your employees that you care about them, whether it be at home, at your physical space, and so on and so forth?
So most people know, but if you don't, we have two departments. One's residential and one is commercial. And the odd thing is the designers that are in commercial have a whole different set of skills. They have different characteristics and they have different likes and dislikes. And so typically the person who would sit back in corporate, work on a computer, would never even consider being a residential designer. On the other side, you got the residential designer. They feed on the give and take and the communication, and they need to understand, the person, their home, their lifestyle. And so it's just two different skill sets, really two different personalities. So let's take a look at the corporate, separate that now. So we have set up all of our designers with the ability to work from home. And then we're able to interface back and forth with them. So much like we're doing right now, you can put the blueprint up on the screen. You can talk with clients and or have interdiscussions within the company and walk through projects very easily. We've come up with a design in a box. So working with clients from afar, showing them fabrics and then sending them fabrics in the little box with all the finishes, all the blueprints. That's made that easy. And I see this as continuing. Some commercial clients really do rely on the culture, like you and I've talked about in the past. And so a lot of times that first question might be, tell me about your culture. Tell me about who you are, what you want to look like, what you want people to feel when they walk into your space. Those meetings can be very beneficial face-to-face, but they don't have to be. So that's really, that workaround is very easy and it's been effective and we've been pleased with that. Residentially, that's probably been the biggest hurdle because we were shut down for a month. And so really we were confined to meetings in their home when a client was comfortable with that. A lot of our clients were fine with it and they were comfortable with it. And home meetings are a part of what we do. So that's not a problem, but getting that new client in the door, that was tough. But so to answer your question, we divide them up. It's a little easier in our corporate world to do the things offsite and with Zoom. But with commercial, with residential, just a little more challenging.
Kyle, any thoughts on opportunities that you're seeing for whether it be your clients or even your employees there?
For our employees, we've got 10 employees and we've got one, our Marion office is kind of our urban office, and then our Strawberry Point office is very much our rural office, and they work in small towns all up in northeastern Iowa. And the cultures that our employees work in are quite different. The rural clients are very different from a lot of our urban clients in Lynn and Johnson County. And so they also adopt different attitudes around safety and all kinds of things. So taking regular kind of polls of where everybody's at. Like we have quarterly all staff meetings. Like we have monthly team meetings where every team gets together at least once a month, and our teams overlap. So we see a lot of each other, generally speaking. And all those meetings used to be in person. And I really like our all staff meetings to be together in person, because we're just like a big family at Thanksgiving. We're cousins jabbing at each other and that kind of stuff. And so getting back to that is really important for me and for several of us. But I knew that there were still some folks uncomfortable, whether they're only partially vaccinated or whether they're not going to get the vaccination, or someone they're close to is vulnerable to either. And so I just took a poll, and it's like, well, this last staff meeting we had last week, it's still virtual. We gave the option of, distanced in a large room or virtual or in a conference room with masks, and none of it's quite ideal to the fully in person, but and so we opted for virtual this last time because there were still some folks either on the fence or not, or just not there yet. But they all kind of gave the indication that for our July meeting, we'll probably be in person. So just keeping a pulse on where your people are at, I think, is really key. That if you understand where their mindset is at, you'll be better able to kind of tune to their needs. And then on the employee side, or on the client side, it's this whole thing has really allowed me to better understand the ideal user experience for the client. So what's their journey look like? And with virtual being available, there's certain meetings that are better in person. There's certain meetings that are better virtual. And then of course we all know that, could this meeting have been an email? Should this email have been a phone call? There's a book I just finished called A World Without Email, and it kind of goes to that, what for the message and the communication you need, what's the best format for that. And so we're with our client journey and user experience, we're saying this meeting needs to be in person, this can be in person or virtual, this is an initial phone call, or this is a do-it-yourself thing. Send them this questionnaire and let them fill it out and send it back, and that'll give you cues for how the next 3 meetings go.
Okay, those are great points. And Nicole and Alicia, I don't want to take time away from you on that. So maybe if one of you guys have something there, or if not, Kyle kind of set me up to kind of move on to looking at these virtual teams and communication. So I'll let Alicia, Nicole, do you guys have anything on this opportunity for your employees, or as an employer as well?
You can go ahead, Alicia. Let you start.
I would just say, several years ago, we had started to do a lot of research about collaborative work environment, flexible work environment. We'd started to even do some small adjustments to our workstations. And then COVID hit, and oh my God, that just threw us into the thrust of figuring it out fast, right? We were sort of crawling along thinking that maybe it'll be something we do in the future, but oh my goodness, there's going to be all these constraints. Well, we got rid of all those constraints really fast because we had to, adapt very quickly. So I think it's pretty exciting that we're able to allow that flexibility for those roles where it's possible. And again, giving that people that autonomy to work the schedule. One of the things that we have always worked hard on at Van Meter is treating people like people and helping them be their personal best. And when you have someone who's highly engaged, highly accountable, highly performing, they know how best to work. They know how best to make sure they stay connected to their performance expectations and their teams. So I think this is a great opportunity. You see a lot of feedback from our people around, I get to be a better mom. I get to be a better sister. I get to be a better employee because I can throw my laundry in, get that started, get my dinner going while I'm also doing all these things. And just the ability to multitask, even though Cedar Rapids is a fairly small town or the corridor, you don't have to drive too far between anywhere in Marion or Cedar Rapids, but you still have that additional commute. You have that additional, like, drop the kids off, all of that. So I think people are finding the extra time to be able to balance work life very healthy and really positive. So we're seeing really good things and helping people be their personal best.
Oh, I love that, Alicia. Thank you.
Um,
Nicole, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it is really about that connectivity, right? Of taking the time and being very purposeful. We've talked about that more and more, that purposeful networking, setting up time with peers, with either individual contributors on your own team, peers across, and like I said, across the world. For us as a global organization, we have over 300 sites. So again, with us having now this virtual conference room, it actually enables more of that networking and reaching out and connectivity with folks perhaps you hadn't thought about connecting with in the past. But it does take, like I said, being very purposeful about that and setting time aside, and not just to talk about work agendas, but just to get to know you and share a little bit. So we share with family our favorite vacation spots, where you're going to vacation when travel starts up again, those types of things. I think it's really important to do to connect with the folks.
I would add to what Nicole was saying around the purpose and the intention around culture connectedness. That has been something that we have been investing a lot of time and energy into, and just that purposeful sense of culture connectedness. It's one of our overall company strategies for the year. It's our leadership focus for the year. We break into all of our support teams. We do a lot to ensure that we are keeping people together, even though they may be apart. We've had a lot of sort of internal communication campaigns. I love Van Meter. Why I love Van Meter. We had the I Miss You a Latte campaign, where we sent out $5 Starbucks gift cards, $5 gift cards to everybody, and said, pick someone you don't know, invite them to a virtual cup of coffee, and just, here's some questions. If you're a little nervous about what to say and broaching somebody new, here's a few questions that you can ask. But we are better together. And how do we stay connected? In our little I Miss You a Latte campaign was one of those things that we're trying to do. We're in a new environment and we need to be flexible, but we also have to stay super intentional to our culture and keeping people connected to our culture.
Oh, thank you, Alicia. Those are great words, right? And, being intentional, being your personal best, and knowing that, being your personal best is going to help others as well, right? So, we keep talking about, knowing that there's these new channels of communication, knowing that, we can all be reached, we have, and maybe if you didn't have email in your back pocket, now you do, or you've given out your personal cell phone, or maybe a personal email, just as we were all adjusting to things and trying to understand, where do we draw this line? So I guess how have you guys as leaders, or just as an employee or an employer, kind of how have you guys been able to help each other, whether it be your teams or yourself, set expectations on the appropriate type of communication methods? And I know, Kyle, you mentioned kind of knowing that, hey, this email could have easily been a phone call, or knowing that this Zoom meeting could have easily been an email too. So how was everyone kind of bringing everyone back into this, and knowing we wanted to give people grace as we continued to combat this new normal, right? But I guess how are you guys setting the bar or setting the tone for your employees going forward in that respect?
Yeah, so everybody has kind of different work environments. Ours I think is classified as knowledge work. As there's an author, Cal Newport, I'm going to mention another one of his books called Deep Work, where early on, when I was cooped up in the conference room up the hall away from the one other person that stayed in the office, I had like a couple hours first thing in the morning completely uninterrupted because nobody else wanted to bother me, and I wasn't physically available to anybody. So I discovered that in that first few hours of the day, I got an incredible amount of really good work done. And then I read the book Deep Work, and it's like, well, duh, of course, when you have fewer interruptions and you have fewer distractions, you get more better work done. But it's like scientifically proven, and you get into a different headspace and you can explore different things and certain types of activities that take longer periods of uninterrupted concentration. You can mark more progress over time if you have that deep work time. And so I kind of did a little experiment where I just blocked off a section of my calendar every morning, like, don't talk to me. I don't want to, and encourage other people to do the same. So a few other people started, and they're like, yeah, a couple hours in the morning or a couple hours at the end of the day, whichever they kind of like. Now we've kind of had to refocus kind of what parts of the day that we need to all be available, whether it's to our clients or to each other. But I think I've found a lot of value in that, and that's kind of a boundary and expectation that I think everybody has now. And we finally switched our phone system over to something a little bit more modern, so we all have direct numbers, and we can decline a lot more easily, and set hours of when it actually rings to your cell phone and that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Oh, good points, Kyle. I, the whole, reading so much as I've tried to prepare for this and whatnot, it seemed like this consensus on Tuesday or Wednesday, these are no meeting days. Like we're not meeting. So you have that expectation where you can, you're going to be able to do that quote unquote deep work. Nicole, anything specific with, knowing that, I know you're directing teams across, if I remember right, it's the United States. Is it Canada, Mexico as well? I'm trying to remember exactly.
Right.
So maybe just talk about, not just work culture as we know it, but across cultures. And then, knowing that, we communicate differently, now even more different. So what have you seen, and kind of what's worked for your team?
Yeah, absolutely. I have that large team that spans Canada into Mexico and east to west coast, right? So we have different time zones. So when you are trying to pull a large team together, you're going to, hit somebody's lunch hour. You're going to start them early in the morning. On the West Coast, they're starting at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, or you're keeping the East Coast late, right? And so we talked about that, and our peers are global. So we do have cross-functional teams and organized globally too. So we're meeting with China and India, Southeast Asia, Europe, right? So it can be challenging to find that. So really encouraging that flex time. So if you're taking a really early morning call, right, give yourself a break. And I love the word that you used earlier, Brady, is grace, right? And allow some time off then either during the day or call it an early day when you've started. But even before that, right, we all had the digital leashes too. And as I remind people, when I was growing up at family dinner and the phone rang, you didn't answer it, right? That's okay. That can work for these too, right? Leave them on the desk or on the counter when you're having your family time, and make sure you're giving yourself those good boundaries. And I think, as Kyle said, he sets aside time in the morning, set some time during the middle of the day and take lunch. Novel concept when you're working from home, right? But sometimes you need that break, that mental break. So schedule some time in the middle of the day to take a break. And we try to encourage our folks to do that as well.
Yeah, lunch, what's that, right? When you're working from home, it's just you work right through it, and it's all of a sudden 2 o'clock. It's like, oh yeah, I'm hungry. I should have probably done that. So no, those are great points, Nicole. I appreciate that.
You bet.
What about you, Alicia, as far as, looking at this expectation of communication, but also knowing that, you mentioned moving kind of more towards a hybrid option. So, you're going to maybe have those days that, that Tuesday, we're all going to be in office. So that's when we're going to have these different types of meetings. So, that to me is just interesting to say, well, I really want to, get a hold of, let's say, Paul today to have our conversation. But then knowing that we want to pull these other people in, I guess that just interests me how you guys are approaching that. Maybe that's in the works, but also kind of enhancing this, what I call the water cooler effect, knowing that people are going to be back in the office at certain times. So is it, encouraging people when they're going to be in the office to have those talks? Is it still encouraging them, when they're on their virtual days? I'm just curious, kind of that approach, and maybe just some thoughts from you on that.
Sure. So again, what we did is we really left it up to the leader and the employee owner to figure out what works best for them and for the team. I can give you an example of what we're doing on my team. So on my team, we've decided that Tuesdays, we're all going to be in the office together on Tuesdays, because that's where you get the, hey, I love your shoes. What are you doing this weekend? And then you overhear the, oh, you're working on that. I have something that comes into that as well. And so there is that like personal connection that's still important to the work that we do. And so we've just said, we're trying to keep it as loose as possible so that we don't put so many constraints in it that it doesn't feel like flexible work environment anymore. That and we're planning on being in the office together on Tuesdays. And then a part of that is just continue. When we started as a group, we sat down as a team and said, how do we want to do this? How do we want to roll as we go through this? What are the things that are important for our success? One of them we talked about, like our non-negotiables as a team, is we're not going to be judgy. If one person decides to come into the office because it works well for them 3 or 4 days a week, but the other person's only going to come in on Tuesdays, that's okay. We're not going to judge that. That doesn't mean that because Jenny comes into the office 4 days a week, she's a better employee owner than Alicia, who only comes in 1 day a week, right? We focus on results. We focus on actions. It doesn't need to be about time. And our first non-negotiable was we're not going to be judgy. Our second non-negotiable as a team is we're going to talk a lot, early and often, and communication is important. And so if something's happening that you don't really feel good about, do not come tell me. Practice on me first and go talk to that person directly first. Like, hey, I noticed you've been letting me down on this, or hey, you had committed to coming to a couple of my connection conversations and you haven't, or I noticed that when we're on Zoom, I never get to see your face. What's going on? So if there's some sort of team that you don't feel like this is working, it's on you. Go to the person. Don't complain about it, and don't just come, complain to Alicia about it. And third, flexibility. We're going to evaluate this as it goes, and we're going to try it. And as soon as it's not working, we're going to come back together as a group and talk about it and readjust. So we actually put it into our weekly team agenda of like scale of 1 to 5, rate this 5 stars. It's going really well. I think our team's doing well and I'm doing really well. And then we'd rate it. And that, just because it became a standard agenda topic, it didn't become this awkward thing where you felt like we're saying negative things about your team member, or you the one that was saying, I'm not comfortable with how this is going. It just became part of our standard language. And one of the things that we talked about as a team to make this work, communication was going to be important. So I think setting some sort of expectation so people know how they can make sure they're supporting each other. People have differences of opinions on work and work styles. And so if you can sort of set that table first, so that you create commonality across the group, I think that's important.
100%. Yeah, that buy-in from employees, and you're only going to get that if they share in that, right? So I love that feedback aspect of it. And I want to, I know we're about almost 7 or so after 9 o'clock, and I honestly haven't opened it up to the group. I want to make sure that everyone attending today is able to either maybe, let's see, do you guys have questions? Do you have thoughts? I mean, this is obviously an ongoing changing culture impact, right? As far as whether it be to you personally, to your work, to, a coworker, family member, whoever that is. So I just want to make sure that if anyone has a question, comment, story, whatever it is that we give you guys a couple minutes here to share with us and bridge a question or whatever it is, if whatever's on your mind. I just didn't want to get to the end of it and try to squeeze it in either. I've plenty I can keep moving on with our wonderful panel here, but like I said, wanted to give a minute or two just to see if anyone has anything for us.
Brady, this is Christine from ESCO Group.
Yes, Christine, awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I have a question on how to handle, we have people who can't work from home and there's a bit of envy, and how you handle that with the culture as we're moving toward a hybrid model as well. That, okay, yeah, you get to do your laundry, you can go walk your dog in the middle of the day, and I can't, so you have more of that work-life balance and I don't. So how are other companies kind of handling the new culture?
Kind of this culture bridging almost, right? As far as looking at people who are able to do their work from home and others who can't. I mean, any comments from our panel here first? Maybe I have a couple things, but just want to get it more from you guys out on the front lines here.
I kind of have a follow-up question back to Christine a little bit, that, if there's is that difference because of a difference in job duties, or there's something different that those two people do, or is there a seniority thing, or is there a trust thing between the two employees where one is, we trust them to be autonomous and take care of things when they're not supervised, where another person may not be as supervised, or they need to be more supervised, or they're handheld?
Great question, Kyle. We have different businesses. So we have some who do automation so they can do computer programming. A lot of that can be done at home. Then we have other people who build panels. So they have to actually be on site to actually do the work.
Mhm.
And then we have different positions within the company, from a support side too, where they're able to work from home based on their position. And then the other ones, they actually have to be on site.
Right.
I can offer a couple of things that we've done, Christine. I think the door swings both ways, right? So when we had our frontline workers in, and we sent those that could work from home, we really made sure that our frontline workers understood how much they are appreciated, how much they are valued. They got a lot of reward recognition, both monetarily and monetarily. Like, we really focused on, we know that you are putting yourself on the line right now to support our customers, and we want you to know our frontline. We did a couple different appreciation bonuses and things like that. We did not give that to the people at home. So, we had that as well. So it was like, they're home, they're safe, they're not putting their safety on the line. So that's why they're getting a lot of the positive reinforcement right now. Going forward, Christine, what we really try to do is focus on the role and say, these are the roles where it makes sense, and just try to keep it fact-based. And I get it. It is something that we try to be sensitive to. We try to be very thoughtful in our language so that it doesn't create a we and they start to have that sort of that atmosphere. We try to just it's about the work and focusing on the work. And these people are expected to get their jobs done just as much as everybody else. And so those are some of the nuances that we're working on. It hasn't become a big problem yet, but there is definitely a conscientiousness, particularly when we communicate, that it's not fair to say, those of you that are working from home versus all these that are not, and just trying to be thoughtful about that in our messaging and in our approach, that one size doesn't fit all now.
Thank you, Alicia. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll say that before all this happened, we've had kind of restructured how our salaries are built for each job position, because everybody has kind of overlapping duties and overlapping credentials and things like that. And the tailoring the remote work situation to the job duties over time, it allows people to then refocus. Well, if I want that autonomy or that freedom, then I need to reposition where my career is going. And so that's kind of been a way that we've said, well, if you want to make more money, you have to do more of this type of activity, or if you want to work from home, you have to do more of this type of activity in the company, and that requires you to get different training or different certification, or you have to be willing to sacrifice other things to get to that level or that position.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, that continued feedback, right? As far as I just feel like that's what I continue to hear and read about in this virtual environment, is just as a leader, right? To be, be honest, right? How are we, what are we doing well? What aren't we doing well? So I think that, even something as simple as that, to make sure that everyone's feeling like you're at least touching on that aspect of how you're doing, whether it be every week, every couple weeks, whatever it is. Cause I mean, we all gonna have rough days or a rough week or whatever, but that continued check-in is only gonna help bridge that gap and show kind of that humanness, right? To everyone that you're trying to lead, right? So, and knowing we have about 15 or so minutes left, we've kind of gotten into that virtual teams and communication. I think the other thing that we continue to have a lot of conversation around, and I know like a hybrid option will kind of help with this as well, but knowing a lot of us still are on this Zoom, like this Zoom fatigue, right? And kind of how are we battling that? And kind of the first question that I have here that I've just, was just interested to hear about, like how are you guys ensuring that your employees feel seen outside their quote unquote Zoom boxes? Obviously we can all get caught up in staring at these little boxes all day long, right? And all right, out of sight, out of mind. Now Nicole's good. We talked about it, and now she's going to get that done for me on time. So I'm just curious, how are you guys approaching that to make sure that your employees aren't just feeling like, yep, another Zoom meeting, I guess that's off the list. Now I'm supposed to do this, right? So curious how everyone's kind of battling that fatigue of it. And Nicole, I'm going to throw you on since I called your name out. So as I muted myself in the middle of that, but go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. The Zoom fatigue is certainly real. We have tried though to emulate somewhat of, as people gather into a conference room, you talk about the weekend, right? Or how family's doing, or how was your garden doing, if they know that they're working on that. My leader starts every staff meeting with our virtual roundtable that you have to share something positive, right? As one way to continue that collaboration and connectiveness, that it's not all about work, right? We work with friends, we work with colleagues that you spend a lot of time with. So it's nice to get to know them outside of the work as well. And in the virtual environment, it's a little harder to do. We've even set aside times for just our one-on-ones and our connections, coffee chats, or I've even had a couple what we just call our social half hours, where you can talk about anything, just not work, right? That's the boundary condition. And sometimes you have to have some questions for starting that conversation a little bit. And it might be, what's on your bucket list, if you want to share that. Or if there's someone that you could meet alive, ever alive or ever, why would you like to meet them? Who that person is, and to share a little bit about that. So really concentrating on building those relationships and getting to know folks, not just work all the time. And so Zoom can be fun as well. I know we've had celebrations around different holidays where folks are putting on masks or hats and coming to meetings, staff meetings that way, or having fun with the different Zoom filters and things to do. So again, finding an opportunity to leverage the technology and the fact that we are a virtual conference room. But how do we get back to some of that normal that we had in a physical conference room?
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else on the panel here as far as just kind of making everyone feel seen out the Zoom boxes, or kind of this, I kind of also like to think, how are we seeking your employees' ideas of keeping morale high, right? Like we can all try to be creative as possible with our leadership group or whoever that is. But has there been any intentional reach out to employees about, hey, what's some neat things we could be doing differently here to kind of help? I'd welcome a fun story there if there's anyone has a comment on that. I know Alicia mentioned the latte. I thought that was great, just being able to encourage people, one, to get some local coffee, but also just reach out to someone that they don't talk to very often. So I really like that as far as morale high. So I know I just stole her story and as she told it earlier, but anything else from anyone? If not, I can move on to the next question here.
We've done quarantinis every other Thursday. We take an hour and everybody BYOBs and we throw gifts and jokes and everything else over the chat. And I have heard I'm in a national architect CEO group, and some of them have experimented with, like, obviously sending gift packages home and things like that to kind of boost morale and say, hey, we're thinking about you, and whatever you need, we're here for you, kind of thing. Just little signifiers of support. So
yeah, it's funny.
I think it goes back to something Nicole.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say, I think it goes back to what Nicole said earlier about being purposeful and intentional and making sure that you're committed to that. Just that it's a regular thing that you do, that you incorporate it into your habits. We spend a lot of time with our leaders in leadership training about the importance of culture connectedness, about the importance of knowing your people and not just their name and what their job duty is, but, to illustrate a lot of what Nicole said as well around, what are their passions? What are they excited about? Can you do little drive-bys? Can you celebrate certain events and days? And so like those intentional team opportunities to have fun are important to schedule and to not forget, because just to get into the day-to-day work. The other one that I would add is we started doing pulse surveys. And we did our first one last quarter, and it was a series of 5 questions. And they were all everybody could get it done in 5 minutes. They were questions about how connected do you feel to our culture? How connected do you feel your company? How connected do you feel to your team? And they could just rate that 1 to 5. And we were able to get those results very quickly, and then they could add their feedback as well. So we're excited about these pulse surveys and see how they help us throughout the year.
We've
Yeah.
leveraged the pulse surveys a lot, right? And I think it is important, right, to have some directed questions that you're looking for feedback on, but also just that ability for that gift of feedback so that employees can provide comments. They do it without, any acknowledgement to who that is, which is good, so that you're truly getting some good, true feedback, and then can understand if there's trends that you need to address. And how to focus your efforts with your team.
Oh, those are great points. And I know we're coming up here less than 10 minutes to go. And kind of the one big thing that we hadn't talked about that I really wanted to bring up was, this idea of, I'm at home working for my leader. How am I bridging this gap to prove myself in this virtual environment? How am I being proactive in identifying, leadership opportunities or mentorship for myself or coaching, whatever that is? Because let's be honest, this last year was a lot about just survival, whether it be at home with the kids, whether it be, just the changing work environment in general. Like, let's just think about the industry that yourself is in, Nicole, right? Like that you guys are taking a double whammy there, right? On top of COVID and a derecho, right? Then all of a sudden just the industry itself. So how are you guys encouraging and allowing everyone to kind of get back into this thought of, career coaching, whatever that is, career planning, helping them identify areas that they can continue to improve on? Because let's be honest, a virtual environment is not the easiest or most friendly opportunity for that. So I'm just curious, is there ways that you guys are, either bringing that back to focus, or, you know, planning ahead for 2021, that's kind of been unique to just try to put the employees and their careers back first, especially after we all seem to put them on the back burner for a year?
Excellent question. So we have multiple kind of threads going on throughout the organization. One of the things we rely on is our employee resource groups. So those are different affinity groups, and I'll speak to one, Momentum, that I have presented behind me in my Zoom background, but that's a supply chain focused ERG that we have, and that's right now focusing on developing a workshop for individual development plan and getting our employees just some help and encouragement. And what does that mean? And what does that look like? And how do I do that? In addition, encouraging our leaders to focus on talent in the organization, getting them connected, encouraging them. With Collins being such a vast organization, you can have many career paths across our same organization. So really being willing to connect and leverage our network to get our folks exposure, either on special projects and different programs that they're doing, or again, just that meet and greet. Do an email introduction, and I leverage my network, coming from the Heritage Rockwell organization across then our Heritage UTAS organization, as Collins Aerospace has come together with multiple companies trying to bridging a company culture, a brand new one, as we're going forward and doing that in a virtual environment. It again is that purposeful networking and introductions and people learning about new roles and different businesses that are all now coming together. So there's a lot folks can talk about, and really trying to encourage that, not just from a formal portion, but from an informal too, so that folks know that they own their career development and how might they take those steps to go forward and investigate where they may go next in their career. So just a few of the things that we're doing.
Oh, thanks.
I'll jump in if it's okay. It was more of a personal, after you look back on this situation that we're in, and you always want to go, I wish I, woulda, shoulda, coulda when I had that time. And specifically is, I got 3 of my good friends, and I just said, hey, we have time here, and let's kind of bare our soul, and let's sit down and let's start with some good books and say, here are clearly some weaknesses that I personally need to work on. And it went both personal and professional, much like Nicole was saying. But it's you got to have 3 people, or how many you have in that group, that are willing to share where they need to grow. And then through these books you read, we've probably had 6, 7 books by now. Yeah, I actually belong to a book club, which I never thought I'd say. And so, but it's very effective. And as a result of that, we've had employees join that group, and then we're encouraging other employees to just sit down and, what are things I need to work on so I can improve myself as a person and professionally. So development's huge.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Setting time aside to actually focus on some of those activities, whether it's reading a new book or go learn about something you're interested in that can advance your career. Because ultimately, if you're advancing your career, you're advancing the company. And so we can, if there's ways for us to support that, let us know and we'll help you. And we've always had this kind of miscellaneous office category in our time card system, and we basically said 1 hour of that every week on average. Sometimes it's going to fluctuate up or down. Like, go take a CEU or knock out some learning thing that you're interested in, and if there's a specific course or a full day seminar or whatever, let us know, and we can set time aside for that, and it won't hurt your bonus buckets or whatever for time. So. But setting that time aside and encouraging other people to set that time aside is really important, because otherwise you just never do it.
Yeah, that intentionality, right, that we keep talking about. Alicia, I'll give you a couple minutes here just to maybe comment on, I know obviously Van Meter, and we all know how great you guys are about that employee development and the focus of that. And I know this culture topic was great timing for you guys as as I know that was a big push for you guys going into 2021. But yeah, just curious your aspect on this. We freeze you? Can you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Be me. Well, I think a couple of things. I mentioned it earlier. We've spent a lot of time with our leaders, helping them understand how to know their people. And as part of know their people, like, what are the specific actions you can take to help develop your people and help connect them to their culture? But really one of our core approaches to learning and development is you own your development. You know, it's not your leader who's going to do this for you. You own your development, and you are responsible for building relationships, reaching out to your leader, coming to your leader with ideas. They're here to support you. They're here to help sponsor and mentor you, but it's not given to you or done upon you. You own it. You have to advocate for yourself. You need to stand up. You need to understand what your growth areas are. And between your human resources team, as well as your learning and development and partnership with your leader, we're here to help you. But that responsibility is yours. And so that's what we continue to probably move forward a little bit, even in this virtual environment.
No, I think that's a great way to end on that, Alicia, is your future is yours, and making sure that you guys are given the tools to do it. And I think that'll be the key, is getting everyone excited and ready for 2021 and what the challenges bring. And I really want to say thank you again to Paul, Nicole, Alicia, Kyle. We really appreciated your time today. Your perspective and honesty throughout this has been refreshing, and really do appreciate that perspective. And I encourage everyone, if anyone has questions, comments from this, don't be afraid to reach out to us here at Medco, and we can definitely follow up with, whether it's specifically with Nicole, Alicia, Paul, or Kyle. We want to continue to have these conversations. We obviously know this is an important topic. I know we've hit 9:30 here, but we all know that this major challenge for all of our organizations as we start responding to all these changes that have happened. I mean, obviously this is more dramatic and more honestly fundamentally changed than we've ever seen. So, you know, the choices that we make as individuals, as companies over the next 6 months to a year, I mean, it's truly going to define the success or growth or lack thereof. So I think we need to all continue to consider what this return means, and make sure that not just virtually and in-office employees, but all our teams and cultures and all this is approached thoughtfully. So I do appreciate everyone's time again. Thank you again so much. And the last plug here is May 25th, Future Focused on Community. So please look for communications about that. So 4th Tuesday in May 25th, 8:30 to 9:30. Can't wait to see everyone back. Thanks again. Everyone have a great rest of your week, a fantastic weekend. The sun's out, get outside, okay?
Thank you.
You all. Thank you.
Thank you.